Kia ora. Ko tamatia pokai whenua te moanga. Ko Opawaho te awa. No Otatahi aho. Ko Michaela toku ingoa. Kia ora. I'm Michaela Allen and I live in Christchurch. I live with my husband and we have 3 children. Caitlin, who's 14, William and Leo are twins and are 12. I work at Ko Takareo and I've been working at Ko Takareo for about 3 years now. Currently I'm the Deputy Lead for the Outreach Services and that's a seconded position for 6 months. My substantive role is the Strategic Planning Lead and Data Analyst. I've been involved in setting all the major strategic plan for our school, which has involved a lot of consultation and working with our deaf community to come up with our strategic plan and from there the implementation plan. So last year we had approximately 30 projects that we're working on and my job was to oversee those. Today what I'd like to talk about is my reflections and implementation after taking part in the ELAC Effective Conversation Model. So this came from the West module, and my reflections on the West module learning is that when we connect with someone in a mentoring role, we need to come with it as a sort of a what would you call it now, like a growth mindset with our mentoring conversation. We don't need to be the person that has all the knowledge and has all the answers, but really it's about forming that relationship with someone first of all. So the ELAC model is one way of coming up with this, and it was the source is from Anand. So the first stage of your ELAC model is the E, the energy. So you bring energy to the conversation, you ignite the conversation. So it could be the way that you question, the way that you greet someone. You know, tell me about what's been building you up this week. Tell me something that's been draining you this week. You know, just sort of that sort of open-ended sort of spark. And then we move into the listening phase. And there's 3 stages to the listening, or 3 levels of listening, I should say. The first one is level 1, and we could call that "What about me?" And that's when you listen to someone, but really you're listening to try and then relate to what they're saying by one of your experiences or your opinions. So you're sort of waiting for them to finish talking and then jump in and then have your little bit. That's not really a level that you want to be in this situation. That's more like a level where you're at in, you know, the staff room or if you're talking to your friends. Level 2 is that I hear you. So you're reflecting back to them that you really are listening and engaging. So you're rephrasing what they're saying. You know, this is what I'm hearing. Am I understanding you correctly? Sort of just rephrasing and checking in. And the level 3 is that I feel you. So you're connecting with a deeper level, not just the words, but what's happening underneath. So you might be saying things like, you know, you're talking about this situation, but let's delve deeper. Why do you think this situation has come about? Or what do you think the person meant when they said this? Or why do you think you have this response to this situation? So you're sort of peeling it down a little bit into the deeper levels. So after you've really engaged in that sort of listening, we move to the appreciation, which is the looking for what's good in the situation. You know, the phrase "misery loves company." People kind of can get a little bit caught up with a negative take on things. Sometimes we're programmed, well, not programmed, but you know, you feel like you are programmed in a way to always look at the negative side of things. But in this situation, we need to bring, you know, the appreciation, the positive side. And in my reflection with this, I also brought in the well-being module learning. So in there, it's that, you know, what supports have you got? what are some of your own personal strengths that you can bring to this situation? You know, who around you has got the experience, or is there someone that could model this situation, or just look at it from a positive side. And then the last one is the curiosity stage, which is connecting with the person to find out how the solution could be, or a solution could come about. It's important to recognise that the person that you're talking with is the person that knows the situation intimately and knows all the context around it. So you really can't make the decisions for them. You don't know the best approach necessarily. You can give them ideas, but it's better to build their capabilities so that they get empowered and their skills and strengths, or their skills are strengthened to be able to then approach new problems or situations. They know that they've got it within them to sort out whatever the problem is or find a solution. Coming alongside the ELAC model was another reading that I did, and it looked at the Talanoa Pacifica approach, and that means talking about nothing in particular, but really it's just like a meandering conversation. So if you're using this ELAC model, it's not like a rigid set of questions and stages. It's more like you, as the person that's leading the conversation, can direct and guide the person through the process. They won't even necessarily feel that it's happening to them, that you're taking them through this process. So with this Talanoa approach, it's about building the relationship and building the trust. So that's will happen a lot in that listening stage. And then just let the conversation take on a natural path, and then you can bring those ELAC elements to it. So that's sort of was my reflection. And so what did I do with the learning? Let me share with you. Okay, so after I read and thought and wrote some ideas, I met with my manager to discuss using this framework when I'm connecting with my person I'm mentoring. And so we went through and I discussed with her, the different elements, and then she gave me her ideas. She's got like this cube approach where when someone has a sticky situation, she says you take a dice or a cube and you have to come up with 6 different solutions, and then together you decide which one is the best one or two to use. So she shared some ideas as well. So then I started using this ELAC framework with the person that I'm mentoring, and I haven't told her that I'm using it as such, but definitely found for me being armed with different strategies and different phrases and different purposes really made me feel more confident when I was connecting with my person, because as it turns out, the person I'm mentoring is far more knowledgeable about the content. I'm helpful in terms of leadership and strategy, and so the actual nitty-gritty content, she has all the knowledge around that. So this was kind of reassuring for me, thinking I don't actually need to know the ins and outs of the detail, but what I need to do is to empower her to make the best decisions. So as I was doing these mentoring conversations, I was writing down some questions that I had phrased or used that I thought were useful, and so then I checked in with my manager again and said, okay, I actually think I'd like to create like a document where it's got some clear guidelines from each stage, and then roll this out with the other leadership team who have got mentoring conversations. So I created the document, and then I emailed all the regional leads and the team leaders and explained how to use this model. So I'll just share with you what it looks like. So the document, it's fairly self-explanatory, so it just has instructions here about what the purpose is. And then each stage of the mentoring conversation, so you've got your energy, so what's the purpose of it? It's to begin the conversation with energy and ignite discussion and so on. And then these are some of the examples. So what would progress look like for you after this conversation? That could be one question. And then we move into listening, and then again it discusses around the different levels of listening. And then some questions, like, so you're, or not so much questions, but reframing phrases. So that sounds frustrating, or so what you're saying is, you know, just those sort of general reflective questions. And then the appreciation, again, just going through the different stages, and some questions like, how will you maintain your work stamina? Who is someone you could go to for advice? So I pulled in here some questions that really reflected the wellbeing module that I had done as well. So talking about their own supports and stamina, and then the curiosity stage. So, you know, what is the outcome you're hoping for? How does this make you feel? So again, it's the do good to feel good. So bringing in those sorts of concepts into the curiosity stage. So I was able to blend the two modules there. So what I think are the little ripples from this document is, so my own impact with my mentee. So it's definitely been on a focus on positive problem solving. And there was one particular situation that she was quite nervous about. There was a person returning to work after some absence, and that person, there were some management difficulties there, and so how was she going to approach a conversation with her? So I was able to talk through this with her, but then also build her capability up. So she had the meeting and it went really, really well, and she was really positive. I felt really good about it. So I think that was quite useful. The response that I had from the team and the regional leads from the email, they were positive about that. And just personally, I'm feeling really confident in my management role. Yes, I'm having conversations around content that perhaps they have more experience with. I haven't been a resource teacher of the deaf, and we have about 150 of them, and I'm one of the deputy leads of them, and so I haven't actually done their job. So that does put me in a position of, definitely I can't come up with a solution, but what I can do is help them to strategize and think about impact of their actions. So this model was really useful for my own confidence. And then what I'm hoping to do is set up a demonstration conversation at a conference that we're hoping to have nearer the end of the year. We've done this before to model like how you do teacher observations and so on, but I thought this could be really a good way to talk about how to lead even difficult conversations, and just have like a scenario, and me being the mentor and someone being the mentee, and then just modelling for everyone else how it would go. I imagine over time that we would have some refinements made to the document. Might lose some questions or put some better ones in, maybe have clearer instructions if it's not fairly obvious to people. And hopefully then we can roll this out to other areas of the school. So I'm just using this in the outreach part, which is the majority of the teachers, but we also have enrolled school where we have another 30 staff, and so that could be something that can be rolled across. So that's that in a nutshell really, and I'll just quickly click on some sources that I've used, and just want to say thank you to the team that put the module together. It was really useful, and I really enjoyed reading about it and applying it to my own setting and developing my own strengths as a leader. So thank you for taking time to listen. Ngā te wā.